Italy's run is over. Bayern chase the new Havertz. Arsenal want Premier League stars and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes as I'm your host, Matt Froelich. You are the One Footballers and this is the Daily News. So first off, after a ridiculous 37-game unbeaten run, Italy have finally lost. It's a run which saw them pick up the European Championship in the summer, but they will not be winning the UEFA Nations League thanks to a 2-1 loss to Spain last night in the San Siro. Of course, things may have been a little bit more, well, even for the most of the game had Leonardo Bonucci not been sent off, but he received his marching orders late in the first half, and it came between the time when Ferran Torres managed to bag 2 goals and put Spain in a rather commanding position. Yes, Italy fought back in the second half, but it just wasn't meant to be. Now, it's not necessarily a changing of the guard per se for Italy and for Spain, but on the face of it, maybe this is putting the wheels in motion of quite an aging Italy team. They're going to have to do some restructuring before the World Cup at the end of next year. And as for Spain, well, they're bloody through so many unbelievably exciting youngsters, is making the likes of Pedri look like a seasoned professional already, despite the fact he's still a teenager. Last night, Barcelona's Gavi, who by the way never completed more than 85 minutes in a Barcelona B, a Barcelona match up until now, completed 85 minutes last night for the Spanish national team, became the youngest ever player to make his debut for the side. And this, along with a few others, looks very good for the future for Spain. And like I mentioned, Ferran Torres playing up through the middle managed to bag 2 goals, and you can see the effect that the Guardiola system is having on this Spanish national team. Now, of course, many of you will probably point to the fact that the UEFA Nations League is rather a secondary tournament when it comes to the big tournaments, and that it's not really worth winning this, that and the other, but still, both sides put out strong teams. They obviously wanted to win the game. It was a high-profile affair, and they're both, well, Italy and the other semi-finalists to lose will both be gutted when they're not in the final on Sunday. And talking of that other semi-final, it sees France face off against Belgium as well. It's set to be a very, very good clash. On top of all of this, though, it wasn't also the greatest night for Italy keeper Gianluigi Donnarumma, who was back in Milan for the first time since completing his move from AC Milan to PSG. And, well, it's fair to say that a few Italian supporters, probably the ones who support AC Milan, weren't exactly happy with him being back in their stadium. There was quite a lot of boos when he was on the ball, and on top of all of this, it seemed to affect his confidence a little bit. After the match, Roberto Mancini said that it's not necessarily important that they go ahead and look at all their club rivalries because Italy is playing. When Italy is playing, they need to focus solely on their country. I agree with him there, and maybe it's just a bit too much for some AC Milan supporters to get over, but inevitably, it was a disappointing night for them as they lost for the first time in a competitive fixture on home soil since 1999. Next up then, and we move to some transfer news, and Bayern Munich, as ever, are looking to the rest of the Bundesliga for their next generation of stars, and this comes in the form of Bayer Leverkusen's Florian Wirtz. Now, we've spoken about him loads on this channel. In fact, he popped up in our Golden Boy tier list, which you can find right here, because he's such a ridiculously good talent. Anyone who watches any sort of Bundesliga or Leverkusen game will know that he is in ridiculous form at the moment and has even more goal contributions this season than Robert Lewandowski. Some ridiculous form indeed. So much so that Leverkusen consider him completely untouchable next summer, and why wouldn't they? But as is the case, we all know that when a lot of money is shown, is presented on the table in front of many teams, it's very, very difficult to turn down, especially one like Leverkusen, who aren't necessarily a financial powerhouse when you compare the rest of Europe. The one thing they've got going for them is that Bayern Munich don't necessarily spend the ridiculous money on a lot of players, especially not from within Germany. They like to wait until players' contract runs out, or they can get them on a cheaper deal. This probably won't be the case with Florian Wirtz because his contract runs until 2026, and on top of that, if it wasn't enough that his contract expires in, what is it, over 4.5 years' time, he has no release clause. And this is of massive benefit to his club because, well, it means that they really have a say in how much they want to charge for the attacking midfielder. Of course, if he turns around and says he absolutely wants to leave, there's not really much they can do about that. But for the moment, he seems very happy at the club, is very thankful for the club giving him the opportunity when they signed him in the youth team from Cologne. And at the moment, the club are definitely reaping the rewards. He's been dubbed the new Kai Havertz. So when you look at the fact that Havertz left Leverkusen for almost 80 million to Chelsea, you'd probably think the Wirtz is going to command the same kind of price. But eventually he probably will end up leaving the club. As for now though, it's best to just enjoy the amazing football performances that he's putting on. After all, he is playing at a club which has developed some serious talents in the last few years. There's obviously Kai Havertz who came through there, Julian Brandt was part of Leverkusen as well, Toni Kroos even developed on a year-and-a-half loan from Bayern Munich all those years ago, and of course more recently there's players like Leon Bailey as well, who's made a big money move to the Premier League. Moving on then and to Arsenal and some transfer news that should get Arsenal fans a little bit excited, but it seems to come hand in hand with a potential takeover. Daniel Ek, the Spotify owner and founder, along with Thierry Henry and a few other Arsenal legends, were part of a bid to take over the club in the summer. This was swiftly rejected, but there are rumours that they're going to put together a little bit more money and try and take over the majority shareholding, and that will leave Arsenal fans with a lot of excitement, and it may mean that they'll find a few more transfers incoming at the Emirates, two of whom could be fellow Premier League strikers, one of them being Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the other being Ollie Watkins. Now at the moment this is just rumours flying around, just a couple of names, but seriously this would be some very, very good deals if Arsenal can get them done. The only issue at the moment is that Everton and Aston Villa should realistically be harbouring ambitions of overtaking Arsenal and fighting for the Europa League. Arsenal are doing the exact same thing, but because they're on quite a similar level at the moment, it's probably unlikely they're going to want to swap clubs just yet. Of course, historically Arsenal are a bigger club than Everton and Aston Villa, maybe not on the European stage with Aston Villa having more wins, but you can still see that there's going to be a lot of money thrown around if these two are to leave, because, well, they're coming from fellow Premier League clubs. I mean, we're talking about two teams selling their top strikers to a fellow Premier League club. It's going to be at least like 60 million each, whether they're worth it or not. I happen to think that both are fantastic strikers, but Arsenal will need to make a little bit more room in their squad, and that could be done with the sale of Alexander Lacazette. Finally then, a quick round-up of the rest of the day's transfer news. And the Saudi Arabian private investment fund is this close to completing their takeover at Newcastle United. Paul Pogba was willing to put the end to all sorts of speculation linking him with a move away from Manchester United by signing a new deal at Old Trafford. AC Milan and Inter Milan are both interested in River Plate youngster Julian Alvarez. And lastly but not least, Gareth Bale, Marcelo, Mariano Diaz and Luka Jovic have reportedly all been told that they can leave Real Madrid by manager Carlo Ancelotti. That's all from me then. Check out everything else we've got going on, and until next time, I will see you guys later.